We're ready to proceed.
Okay, great, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Councillor Gary Crawford. I'm the chair of the Budget Committee. And the clerk has confirmed that we do have quorum, and I'd like to call the meeting 17 to order and welcome everybody here. As I understand, this is first meeting that we've had since February 4th, which was a number of months ago. Today's meeting is being held by video conference. City staff are also connecting to the meeting by video conference. As City Hall remains closed, the public will continue to participate electronically and can watch the meeting streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. As we all know, there could be some technical difficulties and issues, so hopefully we won't have any today, but your patience will be appreciated if we do. The clerk has confirmed that there's no public speakers registered on any of the items today. So before we begin, I want to remind everybody about the important health and safety measures that we must follow. All in-person participants have been seated 2 meters apart. So please stay in your designated seat. I think Councillor Carroll is the only participant who's physically downtown today. And so Councillor Carroll, you should not be changing your seat. So when entering, exiting, or moving about the room, just wear a face covering, and the sanitation kits have been provided on all the desktops. Attendance in the committee room is limited to only those persons who are required for the meeting. A number of the clerks, audiovisual, and IT staff are present in the committee room. As we all know already, again, with all the meetings we have, this is a paperless meeting, and the clerk has provided all the information on CMP and the clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available in person and remotely to help with your devices. I'd also like to remind for staff to keep the mics muted and the videos turned off unless they need to answer questions or speak to the committee. It'll make it a lot easier for me as the chair and for those watching on YouTube to observe primarily the members as they participate in the debate and the vote. And of course, members, if you can keep your mic muted until you need to ask a question or speak, that would be much appreciated. As part of each agenda item, I'll ask members to raise their hand or unmute their mic if they wish to question staff or speak. And I'll create a speakers list if needed, and we'll do what we normally do, work down the list. Again, when you're voting on an item or a motion, I ask members to ensure to turn off their video and to raise their hand to indicate the vote. I want to remind you that whether you are participating in today's meeting in person or remotely, you must still submit and approve your motions by email. Clerk City staff will not be printing motions for your review. If you need to confer with the clerk staff in the room, you must stay 2 meters apart. And if there are any visiting members of council, I see one, Councillor Ainsley, welcome. I encourage you to turn on your video so that we can see you, as we already can, so thank you. And although we are meeting in different locations and meeting remotely today, the committee would like to acknowledge the land that we are meeting on in traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis peoples. And we also would like to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Interest of Act? Seeing none. As I said, this is the first regular meeting of the Budget Committee since February 4th, so we have a number of minutes that we need to pass. So I have a motion, if the clerk could put it up, to confirm the minutes of December 6th, 10th, 15th, 16th, 17th, January 28th, and February 4th. Councillor Layton, would you like to move that? I saw your hand up. Great. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Excellent. Members, we have 6 items that on the agenda today. We'll do a quick run through to see if any of them need to be held. If not, we'll just proceed with approving them as we move along. Let's go to BU 17.1, Toronto Water 2020 capital budget and 2021 to 29 capital plan adjustments. Would anybody want to hold this item for questions?
I'll move the staff recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Layton. Any comments? Any speaking? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, BU 17.2, Transportation Services 2020 capital budget and 2020 to 29 adjustments.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to hold that item.
Okay, Councillor Layton was going to hold that one.
Oh.
Okay, on to BU 17.3 Arena Boards of Management 2018 Operating Surpluses Deficits Settlement. Any questions? Anybody want to hold that?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor Layton's going to move the staff recommendations. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 17.4 Association of Community Centers Settlement and Operating Results for the year ending 2018. Anyone to hold or questions? Councillor Bradford, you'd like to move that? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 17.5 Voluntary Separation Program, Toronto Public Library. Anyone like to hold that or for questions? Seeing none, Councillor McKelvey, would you mind moving that? Thank you, appreciate that. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Last item on the agenda is BU 17. Oh, you know what? Actually, can I go back to BU 17.5? I have a motion that I have to move that Clerks has prepared. It just needs to be moved in this fashion to go off to executive.
Move to reopen.
Yeah, we can reopen that. Thank you very much. We'll reopen that. I apologize about that. Matthew, can you put up the motion? I'll just read it. It's more just technical in nature. This is how we have to actually move it to get it to executive. And I'll just read it quickly. It's that the excess funds from the development up be directed toward addressing the Toronto Public Library state of good repair backlog, subject to the cost of delivering other city building opportunities as may be identified through the public consultation process and discussions with the local councillor. And two, it's not up on there. Matthew, can we get that up on the screen? And that number two, the city recognized Toronto Public Library's contribution to city building through maximizing the value of real estate holdings when approving budget funding to address Toronto Public Library's serious and growing state of good repair backlog. So let me just get that up on the screen quickly, but that's the motion.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just 1 second.
Yep, no problem. Oh, hold on. I apologize. Here, I'm making a mistake here.
Sorry,
I should look at my notes. 17.5 is the executive committee received this item for information.
Yes.
That's my fault. I apologize.
Sorry, Mr.
So we're just receiving this and it'll go off to executive. And this is an item that actually has to be approved at full council. So we receive it, executive receive it, and it goes to full council for approval. So it's more technical in nature. So we're actually just moving receipt of this item. That motion I just mentioned is for the next item.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, apologize about that. So Councillor Layton, you can move that if that's okay? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, all in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, so now we're at 17.6, which is the Deer Park Library Potential Turnover Agreement. That motion that I just mentioned is, again, more technical. This is how it has to proceed to executive and council with that motion. So maybe that may help you, Matthew, in getting that up on the screen. And I apologize for the confusion.
Sorry, and we apologize as well. Just give us 1 second. I apologize.
There we go.
This is on number 6. It's essentially that council direct, if this is the motion.
So that's just a quick question, Matthew. The motion says that city council direct that. So this actually has to go to council really for approval. So we can move this motion.
This is a motion that we've prepared. You can obviously move other motions on this. This is we felt that in order to effect these recommendations, that city council would need to direct staff to do this.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that, Matthew. So why don't we go back to 17.2? I believe Councillor Layton and I think Councillor McKelvey had some questions. I'll start with Councillor Layton.
And Councillor Carroll, sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't think you can see me, but I have questions as well.
Okay, no problem. You're on the list.
Thank
Okay,
you very
Councillor
much.
Layton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Sort of two lines of questions, and this is to the General Manager of Transportation. There is a plan to bring back a proposal in the 2021 budget for some temporary positions to help the city deliver the active TO program, correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. We'll be coming back with a report in January that gives an overview of the outcomes of Active Curb and CAFE TO in 2020 and a proposal for a 2021 program, which will include appropriate staffing.
So we won't need, it is unnecessary at this meeting to instruct or request a report back on what the staffing implications or what staffing needs would be for 2021 to roll out CAFE TO, Active TO, all those other TOs that you're responsible for.
All the TOs. That is correct.
And that would be in order to achieve, oh, great. In order to achieve, and that would be in order to achieve your expanded work and what was planned in the 2021 cycle plan, in the 2021 road safety plan. Like, this is above and beyond the needs that you have at the moment, correct?
That's correct. And the reason why we're writing this report is because we want to give an overview of what happened and how we did it. As you know, we shifted a lot of staff around in order to accomplish those goals, and some of the other pieces that we would normally take care of over the summer were on a slower pace. So we want to provide the opportunity to do both.
You did some great things this past year, so kudos to that. A couple questions about Appendix 1. On the reallocation of money for the Gardner rehabilitation. So there's $60 million that was added into the 2020 capital budget. Has that already happened? Have you already spent the money?
So I'm going to, through the chair, because of the lack or the really reduced amount of traffic, many of our construction projects this year were able to proceed faster and accelerate. And so it's not 60 million additional. It is actually moving the money forward from the 2021 budget in order to be able to accommodate. Yeah, from 2021 to the money is spent. So it's not an additional 60 million to the project budget. It's just advancing the money because we were able to accelerate the work this year. Correct. That's the proposal.
And that reserve fund that it was drawn from was the intended, that's where the 2021 money would have been drawn from?
I believe that's true, yes. I don't know if financial planning has more details on that, but it is the budget that was approved in our 10-year plan.
Yeah, through the chair, there's been no adjustment to the funding sources.
Thank you very much, Steve. The second is the same question on the local road rehabilitation. Is it the same reason why we were just able to accomplish more because of the lower volumes of traffic?
Correct.
And that money would have come from debt, financed from debt anyhow?
Correct. The funding sources didn't change, and we were able to accelerate the work. So it's already in our approved 10-year capital. We're just moving it forward, proposing to move it forward.
Out of curiosity, much, how did it, the Gardner rehabilitation, the timeline over the next decade of, did advancing that work actually reduce or advance our, the end date, the completion date of the project, or no? It's a big project, I get it, but.
Yep. So the chief engineer, Michael DeAndre, is on the line. Maybe he can give you the most up-to-date information on the schedule.
I'm going to have 3 of my favorite staff people right on my screen while I'm watching this. This is fantastic. Mr. DeAndrea, are we going to get the Gardner done quicker as a result of this? It's not an important question, so I'm just going to let that one go. And thank you very much for answering my questions.
Here,
Thanks,
having
Councillor.
some audio trouble. I apologize. Councillor, to answer your question with regards to contract one, our hope is that we'll have the substantive part of the construction completed by early next year. So traffic reinstated on that section between Jarvis and Cherry Street. So work is progressing quite nicely, and so we are on schedule for that completion date.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor McKelvey, you have questions?
Oh, I think you confused when Councillor Carroll was asking earlier. I guess we sound alike.
Okay, well, Councillor Carroll, do you want to go next?
Oh, okay. Thank you. I went looking for my own little project there and saw it, and thank you for that, because that's a project that is getting messy. It really needs to be done, the Reen to Keniston connection. But I noticed the Metrolinx item immediately above it in the table. And I'm wondering if you could talk about, it says project coordination and reprioritization work. I'm wondering if you could flesh that out a little bit for me and speak to the rationale for using the funding sources for that Metrolinx project, our debt and our development charges. I wasn't aware that we were using our development charges for Metrolinx work, so I'm wondering if you could go through the rationale required for using those funding sources.
Yes, hi, Councillor. Through the chair, Ashley Curtis is on the line, and he's going to respond to that question. Well, so while he's getting hooked up, I'll just suggest that the actual funding sources and the DCs, the development charges, the sort of mix of funding that is used for all of our projects is something that we work closely with our partners in financial planning on. Many of these works that are in this acceleration request are additional works that Crosslinx is actually completing on behalf of the city. They also have had the benefit of low traffic volumes to be able to continue to work on their program in bits and pieces, even though I know the overall schedule for the work is extended. And in part, those splits on the development charges are determined by the development charge bylaw that council, I believe the last time that was approved was back in 2018 or 19. The update to that, 2018.
Okay, so it's work that is...
Does that answer your question, Councillor? I think you maybe asked something a little bit more nuanced. I'm not sure if I hit all the pieces.
Well, I just wanted to know, so the rationale is because this is work that's in our right-of-way. This is around the Crosstown project. It's not part of the Crosstown project, but rather doing work for us on the right-of-way?
Correct.
Okay. And if I could just ask, I think this is probably a question for finance. So all told, there's 35 million in debt moving up. And I'm assuming there's no recommendation here about increasing the debt that council adopted earlier this year in the budget. So in taking on 35 million or accelerating and moving up into this year an additional 35 million in debt, is that because there are other divisions that have gotten behind and so they are not incurring debt? In fact, they'll be moving out to future years?
So through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Carroll, it's Heather speaking. With regards to the debt that you referenced initially in the sense of our threshold, that has not changed. As you recall, Council has approved the city to issue $1 billion in debt this year. We've completed 600 million so far, or 700 million, and we are anticipating on completing the remaining of that debt by the end of the year. The way the city finances its projects actually is after the project is completed, the debt is issued. So in this instance, we're not issuing debt in advance of projects. We finance them after they've been completed. So, you know, it's almost like it's a rolling balance, but
Right.
I can assure you that the amount of debt has not changed. And we are on target for issuing the amount that has been authorized for this year.
So there's, to the best of your estimation, there's nothing that's going to end up having to be moved out to future years as a result of this. We'll still end up within?
That's correct. I can confirm that the amount of debt we're taking on is exactly what we planned.
Okay.
And we're right on schedule.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor McKelvey, you had some questions, I believe? Councillor McKelvey, I don't know if you're on mute.
No, Mr. Chair, I didn't have any questions. It was
Oh,
Councillor
okay.
Carroll that had them earlier.
Okay, that's where my confusion was. Okay, any other questions on this item? Anybody to speak to the item? Seeing none, Councillor McKelvey, would you like to?
I'll just move the staff recommendations if you want,
or
Mr. Chair.
Councillor Carroll? Okay, Councillor Carroll's moving the stack
I'm
recommendations.
just trying to get in the minutes.
You just did. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Great. That's all the items, folks. Thank you very much for the, coming back to budget. Welcome. And that's it.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Thanks, clerks.
Thank
We're
you, Mr.
adjourned.
Chair.
Thank you very much, clerks. See you next month.